I won a Newtype challenge with green-white Wing Gundam. Nicholas here from the Southern Islands, and I am happy to report that I have won a Newtype challenge tournament here in Singapore at Agora Hobby. You've seen me on the Tropical Hour GX podcast and on our Pokemon vlogs and stuff like that, but I haven't really introduced myself when it comes to Gundam. Personally, I've been playing all kinds of Gundam cards like all my life. So we're talking Gundam War Next A, Cross War, and I also play Battle Spirits version of Gundam as well, where I managed to get second place at the Malaysia Collab Gundam Only tournament that happened last year. So a bit of context to green-white. When the Gundam card game first came out, a lot of people were on the blue-white hype train. Tefuda hosted their first Mission Alpha, the first, I would say, biggest unofficial tournament here in Singapore. I knew that we should be playing green-white to try and counter that blue-white meta. I did okay. I managed to top 4 that tournament. And then we move on to First Combat. By the time First Combat Singapore rolled around, a lot of aggro decks were starting to pop up. But I kept faith in green-white. I was 3-0 and then up to round 4 is when I lost momentum, and at table 1 I just fell down and I finished at 16th place, which is not enough. I still think it's pretty weird, to be honest, that in Singapore 100 over players had to fight for top 8 promos, while in other countries they had different pods, so it's only 32-man pods to fight for that top 8, fight for the Solera. In any case, we had Newtype challenges. I played various different versions of green-white. I even played blue-white at my last recent one because I don't know, I was really running to a big wall but then I decided, okay, for this last chance for me at Agora, I will play green-white again. But I decided to omit Deathscythe altogether. So I guess let's just move on to the deck list. Just wanted to start the video by showing off the aerial rebuild and the Sulera from the Newtype challenge. So you notice these cards are in Japanese because here in Singapore, we play with Japanese cards. We are allowed to mix English in our decks, but it's just cheaper to buy the cards in Japanese, right? And it's just how we've been used to, for players, for Bandai card games here, we're playing Digimon and One Piece as well. So I'm going to put them to the side here while I'll try to make the deck list looking as good as possible, okay? So let's start with the early turn cards. Of course, you can't go wrong with Zowat 2232, along with Live With Gundam. And also Wing Gundam Bird Mode. Where's my winner version? Yeah, there we go. Wing Gundam Bird Mode 3 pieces as well. This is the early turn package for my green-white deck. With the Zowat, you don't mind going first, right? That means you can play this on turn 2 and then play this on turn 3. How does bird mode come into play? Well, in the mirror, you won't likely see a lot of rush of units. Your opponent might be playing either one of these instead. Then you can play this if you're starting first, and then you'll be ahead in the resource race. Why only 3? I don't want to see this in my hand later on in the game, and then usually I only see 1, right? But at the Newtype challenge, there was, I believe, in my first round playing green-white mirror, but my opponent had Deathscythe, I actually managed to play 2 of these, so I was able to rush into my later bigger units faster than my opponent. But we do need the max amount of Live With, because there is a chance that you start second, then you can play this on your turn 2, and this can also be a blocker later on. I completely respect aggro. Okay, I've lost to aggro too many times not to tag for it. So of course, here comes the Sword Strike package. I play 4. I was contemplating dropping this down to 3, but I decided to go with 4 again. Respect against aggro, cost for Kira, and I'm also playing 2 of Mula Flaga. So I have the Sword Strike package, 6 different pilots to set onto the Sword Strike. Sword Strike is good not just against aggro, but also against mirror. If you're playing against the typical green-white, which also plays Zowat, this can bounce the Zowat out of the way, hitting face or taking out another unit as well. So previously, when I was playing this with the Deathscythe package, I did try to incorporate Peaceful Timber, the Caterer command card as my option of choice to fight against aggro, but I did feel that the stats is not high enough when setting onto something like the Ale Strike, even though you can use it to bounce unit. I felt that 6 attack is too strong, and speaking of which, it's definitely 4 off, right? This card is too insane not to include 4 off. Even in my earlier decks, I played 3 last time, but I felt that now that I'm like skewing more towards white, this is a must-have to stop your opponent's tempo. You can bounce your important units 4 defense and 4 defense. There's actually a lot of units that are 4 defense if they don't set pilot, right? Like you're thinking, getting even like Unicorn Destroy mode and even Avial, if they play it out and they don't set a pilot, that this thing is just insane, right? And if your opponent plays his own Ale Strike, you can use your Ale Strike, attach Kira, or set hero onto it to bounce. Very rare to play this card down without setting out a pilot. It's also like free food for Amuro if you set this down without a pilot. So, but no choice, then no choice. Speaking of Hero Yuri, 4 off, of course, I think that's a given, right? So these are the only pilots I play in the deck. It's technically a pilot, but you're also playing it as an anti-aggro kind of card, right? Anyway, the two of them together, I personally like only playing 2 different kinds of pilot, 8 pilots, because I don't like having too many pilots in hand. No units to set on. And don't ever look down on Wing Gundam Bird mode with Hero Yui. Together, it's a 5-4 unit, can take out a lot of early turn units and still survive, right? Lefrith or like early turn aggro who's already like, they've already attacked, you can use these to swing into an opponent and it will still survive. Another funny story with Mew Laflaga, one Newtype challenge. I was playing against green-white. At the time, I was playing the Deathscythe build. My opponent, I had 2 blockers, but they were both damaged due to Wing Gundam 0. My opponent used Overflowing Affection to draw into 2 of these, which bounced both of my blockers and then he went all the way in face. The Hawk of Endymion, man. Insane card. Let's go into the big units. Of course, Wing Gundam, straight from the beta. You can hit an active unit, level 4 and below. Then you breach 5. So you're basically taking out a unit and hitting shield as well. This is a staple in any form of wing build. I will never drop this to less than 4, right? It's a must. Fun fact, if you set this with Kira, you can take out a small unit like a Lefrith and you won't take any damage because you get -2 with Kira. And last, the big boys. We've got 3 Freedom Gundam and 4 Wing Gundam 0. Please, I know I'm missing one secret. I'll be getting that soon, hopefully. Why did I choose to play Freedom Gundam? Especially now that we are seeing more Justice Gundam in the meta. I've seen more white-blue decks switching to playing 4 Justice Gundam and 2 Freedom. I contemplated doing that before the tournament. I was thinking of removing 1 Sword Strike, 1 Mew, and 1 Freedom to add in like 3 Justice into the deck. In my own personal testing, this Wing Gundam Bird mode helps a lot with this. So for example, if you're going second, normally when you're going second, right, if you play Bird mode down, knowing that your opponent has nothing much in the board, you will get 2 EX resource. So when you are at level 6, you have 4 regular resource and 2 EX resource. If you play Deathscythe in this turn, you're paying 4 for Deathscythe, you're paying 1 from the EX resource, then you get back 1 normal resource. So next turn, you'll be up to 7. You won't be up to 8, like you normally do if you're going first, for example, right? Also, I feel like if you're going second and you play the bird mode, I feel like the Freedom Gundam does well in that spot because even without setting Kira on it, 4-6 is very insane as a blocker, right? Only something with a pilot is going to be able to take this out. And that's also why I think like cards like Sword Strike, right, with the 4 attacks, very, very cool. If you set Hero or you set Kira, you can attack it for 6. So bodies like this are a bit dangerous. So why did I choose Freedom Gundam instead of adding more Justice? I felt like the link will help a lot, especially if you're going to take out an opponent's unit. So there was many instances during the tournament where I had Kira with Freedom. So I would attach to Freedom. Freedom's ability with -2 AP. Then Kira attack -2 AP, so -4. Then on the next turn, my opponent put down a blocker. I played Sword Strike. I think either Kira or Mew. Played this down, attach, and then it became then I -2 again. And then the following turn, I had the Ale Strike set down with Hero Yui, and that gave another -2. It's pretty insane. I really like the synergy it had, right? And of course, it only needs to have a white unit. So if you set a green pilot into a white unit, the effect would still run. That would be better for me than playing Justice, especially since I play 4 copies of Wing Gundam 0. I didn't want it to be a liability yet. So let's wrap up with the commands and bases. I think this is pretty straightforward. Overflowing Infection, you need 4 to draw to your deck. It's a must. Don't play less than 4. If I could play 10, I would, but I can't. And of course, Striker Pack. this card has helped me so much against aggro, right? Always come out 2-4. There's value. I feel there's value instance now where you want to come out the 4-2 sword strike. Now that this is the meta, right? This can bounce a Tallgeese to hand. And this can also bounce a sword strike to hand. So it's a bit of a waste if you play the sword strike. And this can also destroy sword strike. And then lastly, 4 bases. I personally tried 6 bases. I've tried 5 bases. I think 4 is enough if you're playing a sword strike package and you have striker pack as well. The striker pack actually helped me so much in my round 4 match against 1 Year War. My opponent just had Char Zaku just hitting my base. I did manage to draw into 3 Lefifs, so that was good. But hitting the striker pack from the base, coming out the Ale Strike 3-3 and taking out his Char Zaku with the Char on it, that was perfectly insane. I managed to turn the game around. I've seen lists that play 4 striker pack. My own personal testing, right? You play 4, then there's a chance that you might burst 1 out when you already have 1 in play. Or my hand must be like filled with 2 or 3 striker packs and you can only play 1 on the board, right? So there's that lah. I realized I forgot to talk about the greatest card in the deck. This is the way to win the game. Most games, right? You're going to shoot 3 damage throughout the board. And the reason why I ask you to play Launcher Strike most of the time is that you won't get destroyed, right? You'll take 3 damage, you have 1 HP remaining. You'll take 3 damage, you have 1 HP remaining. Sword Strike, if you have Kiva, you'll take 3 damage, you have 1 HP remaining as well. I think mostly if you see green-white, you gotta learn to play against the mirror, right? You gotta learn to be aware of your opponents dropping down 3 damage onto all your units. And to his or her own units as well. So you gotta when you're going closer to that magical turn 8, you gotta trade these out quickly so that they're not liability, or trade this out quickly so they're not liability. I think another tip that I usually see most players forget is if you have the chance to block with either the Gundam Lefif, the Zoward, or the Striker pack, I would always go Striker pack first, followed by Zoward. Unless the only reason I won't do that is 1, I've already played all my striker packs. This is my last one, so I know there's no more coming out for my shield area. Or I'm thinking about lethal for next turn, all to face, and this card can't hit face. Then this card will be the one to be sacrificed first. So gotta think about that as well. And that's it. That is the deck list. I would love to have a discussion with you guys on how to make green-white better, right? If you followed to the end of the video, just take a screenshot of my deck list. I really appreciate it if you could just have a listen to what I have to say for the deck. Maybe you have better opinions. Maybe you think Deathscythe is better. I would love to hear what you guys think as we move into a purple era with IBO. It's been a long time since I did a face-to-face video since I think the first video on Southern Islands, the Mew VMAX video. So if you like this kind of style also, please let me know. Until then, see you next time. Bye bye.